All right, welcome back to Daybreak, which never took a break. Quite a lot of things have been said during the break. I wish you could broadcast them. You're watching the show, News Review, the show that brings what we think about as we begin the day. Gladys Boshole from Uasin Gishu, Rosa Bui from Kisumu, and Janet Ouko, former CEC of Education in Nairobi County. We take a look at some of the feedback of what you've been saying on Twitter, Citizen TV Kenya, at Sangitukwe and at Zinzi_Kate. The views about the conversation we just held. This is Engineer Lazaro. No, Atwoli is overstepping his mandate. He should first of all improve the depleted conditions of low-paid workers. All right, let's take a look at another tweet. Hashtag Daybreak is your ticket into the conversation. Hillary, you say the problem facing this country is greedy MPs. These are people who earn a lot while doing nothing. If these people want a lot of money, let them resign and look for jobs elsewhere. You cannot earn over 1 million Kenyan shillings and still demand for 250,000 Kenyan shillings house allowance. Shame on Atwoli.
I'm vindicated.
Right, Francis Kigondo, who told these MPs to give handouts to the people? They do this to get popular, keep people under the handout mentality and influence the voters. If they want house allowance, they should reduce their salaries to reflect the average Kenyan salary.
Let's take a look at the last one. George, you say MPs are on a 5-year renewable contract basis, earning a consolidated monthly salary. If you're comparing with the other job groups earning the same salary, then your salary should be the same as that of the school head teachers, lawyers, because majority are lawyers/teachers.
Wow, quite a conversation. Consolidated pay.
I say this for Atwoli. I think Atwoli is very consistent in his fight for better pay or better living conditions for Kenyans. Whether you are lowly paid or whether you are an MP or whether you are a doctor or whether you are a teacher, Atwoli stands out and speaks for you. And I think that's what his mandate is.
All right, we'll leave that conversation at that point. Let's focus on what's making headlines on the Standard newspaper, that the next 84 days are crucial in reforming higher education by reviewing programs. That story is focused on page 4 of the Standard. Qualification of lecturers they have to ensure that qualified tutors are teaching right courses. Relevance of degree programs will be looked at to ensure that there could be some scrapping of unpopular courses that do not match job demands and workforce in the universities. The concerns of academic staff are only a third of employees could lead to job losses. You can imagine you have an institution of higher learning, but 2/3 of the workforce is not academic, is non-teaching.
And that commission has been given till July 31st, 2019 to hand in their report. And like Sam has said, this will see a few jobs being slashed. The fact that also irrelevant courses that are supposed to be matched with job demands are not there to also be slashed. When it comes to facilities, to guide allocations of public resources to universities to address congestion. And that is one of the solutions that was tabled, the fact that some universities and colleges should actually come hand in hand and scrap a few others. I earlier mentioned there are about 74 private institutions, private universities that we have in Kenya, alongside another 30 public universities as well, 32 to be specific, public universities, which hire about 27,000 employees, including 9,000 lecturers.
All right, so let's the question that we begin at. So we see this audit being undertaken. Is it too little, too late after expanding the higher learning institutions to this extent?
Okay, I must say this. It was about time that this was done. And I will commend Professor Magoha for doing that. And I have the highest respect for him. I served under him as a lecturer at the University of Nairobi. But he is also the architect of the problem. When he was at the University of Nairobi, he was there when the University of Nairobi was expanding, creating satellite colleges all over the country. And because it was a money-making machine, because of the parallel of the fee-paying student programs, what happened is that the university was so desperate for money that they were expanding too fast. And think about it. If you look at the best universities in the world, like Harvard, McGill, Stanford, do you see them having satellite colleges all over the country? In America, no. If you look at the London School of Economics, if you look at Warwick, they don't have satellite colleges, because a university is defined by the faculty. It is the professors that teach the university, not the building, not the skyscrapers they have, but the faculty. The constant research that they undertake, The articles and the publications that the universities may write, the professors, are the ones that define a university. So yes, so we created this problem by expanding. I know that there was a time, there was a faculty, and I will not say which one, went to set up in Kisumu, and they had 3 lecturers teaching all the courses. The question you ask yourself, I don't see how a lecturer can be an expert in everything. When I taught at the university, I only had 2 subjects that I could teach. You know, so we started losing it as a country. When we got to the point that university education became about getting the paper rather than acquiring knowledge, that is where we also lost the plot. And it's not just also acquiring knowledge. It is also the growth of someone as a person. You're molding a human being. So when you go and put up universities on top of buildings in the middle of the city, where is that universities were supposed to be? It was a culture. It was the value system that was imparted on students. So sometimes you could say students who went to this place behave like this and have certain values. So we split them so much that there wasn't the culture anymore. Right. I still believe that universities should be in one place where you almost, if you look at good universities, they're in a university city. Right. I take the example of Moi University. When President Moi set it up in Keses, it was in the countryside. It was supposed to be a campus that had everything, so that even the shops and everything that are there, it's the students. So it was going to be a student city. But what has happened now, they've moved the university into the middle of the city center again. And so that is how we began. So yes, Professor Magoha is guilty of creating this problem. I'm happy, and he's probably the best man to redress it because he understands it very well.
So then, Janet, what happens to the students who previously graduated, the thousands of students that graduated with certain degrees that then will now be, quote unquote, considered irrelevant? What are those students supposed to do with their papers?
Yeah, a very critical question you ask there. And I'm thinking that I'm sitting here, and I remember 17 years down the line, I was suspended from Moi University for 5 good years. Whoa. 4.
Oh, when myself
and the student leadership in Moi University felt that the parallel students were too much. They were actually suffocating us. This is what used to happen. We would not have lecturers as a joint admission board students. And when you would ask a lecturer, he would tell you, we went to the golden goose that are laying golden eggs. So for me, the infrastructure is very clear in my mind why we lost it. It was because of money, as Honorable Sholei puts it. And now, 17 years down the line, the problem is so big that it is threatening to swallow so many of us. I am wondering, I really support the work that Professor is doing, but I'm wondering, how would you set up a task force to do an entire audit when you have institutions? What happened to the institutions that have led us here? For example, we have the Commission for University Education, who is the regulator of the sector. Let us get to the other step further of not looking for mistakes, but looking at our institutions. What have you done? Because even if we do a task force and they come up with recommendations and we give it to the Commission for University Education that has led us here to implement, we are not doing anything.
Okay, so when you look at the situation, obviously why we are here, why the quality is going down is because of the challenges with cash. And right now we are talking about a class of 90,000 people, that the ones who are scoring C+ and above. So all those will be finding themselves in universities. So universities are not getting sufficient students. So even as we review the quality of education in these universities, how do you ensure that the universities are properly financed? Because now you no longer have the Module 2 students who are bringing some more money.
First of all, can I say this, that somebody had to bite the bullet. And that's what Magoha is doing. And it does not mean that if he was part of the problem, he cannot take the initiative to try and solve that problem. We've killed all our middle colleges because we were all craving to have universities. So you have so many Kenyans, almost all Kenyans are either Form 4 leavers or graduates of the universities. And so you have university graduates hanging around with no jobs at all, but with a lot of frustrations. What Magoha is trying to do is to solve the problem. And I don't think, I'll just differ with the Honorable Sholei, in saying that it doesn't mean that if you're part of a problem, in creating that problem, you can't solve it.
I said he's the best person to solve the problem,
so
actually.
Yes, I'm glad.
Since he created it.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's biting this bullet, and because he's such a bold man, he's going to help us solve this problem. Look at the things that he's looking at. He's talking about qualifications of lecturers. And indeed, many of these universities, because we have too many universities, just like we're talking about the healthcare, you have too many mediocre institutions mushrooming, and then you don't have enough qualified people to work in those institutions. As a result, you have lecturers who probably have not attained that level to become lecturers of universities. So he's going to solve that. Look at the next thing he's looking at, relevance of degree programs. And I'd like to tell my friend, Janet, that he's not taking away degrees that have already been issued. So you don't have to worry that you already got a degree of a program that's now being discontinued. The degree is already yours. You can get a job or do whatever you want with it. It is just that now the situation, the degree is not going to be on offer anymore.
Right.
Okay? So he's going to solve that, where we all go for degree, just so that you can have a degree. You go for courses that probably will not help you better your living or will not help you get placed. So he's going to solve that. So I think all the things that he's doing is going to help us. He's a bold man and he's going to do it. And if you're talking about financing of universities, the less they are, the better the opportunity for those universities to be financed. But now, as you have so many universities, how do you
So do you agree with the merging of universities that Professor Josh Magoha has said?
I think yes. I agree with the merging of universities, because you'll find a university offering probably 3 degrees because they don't have the capacity to offer many courses. Okay? So if they are merged, they are going to be less and they are going to be more effective.
I think for me, I am more interested in the philosophy of our education system. And I think the best person we could look for is a person who said that we no longer need Kenya Poly. We want to convert it into a university.
Technical university.
To a technical university. The person who said that Kenya Science and awesome Teachers College is no longer going to be KTTC. Where is our philosophy? Because even if we do all this, and our philosophy is wrong, why do we think as a country that we don't need diploma? The first thing is that we did not get ourselves here. It is government that got us here. That government that approved that it is no longer going to be Kenya Polytechnic, but it is now going to be a university. That is the rationale that killed all these middle-level colleges that we need so much. Because that is, and you see, if you look at the now proposed new curriculum, it is gearing towards some of these skills that cannot be developed at degree level. We need them so much at this technical level.
You know, I think this goes back, and I think it's both what my colleagues here have said. It's the rapid expansion that has created this problem. Because when you grow slowly, you're able to grow according to the needs of the country, according to the way our economy is growing. If we are tending towards manufacturing, then the courses should be growing towards developing skills for that kind of sector. If we are going towards becoming a more agricultural country, then you'll be developing more skills. Majority of the degree courses you'll offer will go that way. So the rapid expansion has created this crisis. And I think a good example is Strathmore University. Strathmore started as a college, just teaching accountancy only, and did that for years consistently and perfected it. Then they became a business school university, and slowly and consistently. Then the other day they said, let's set up a law university. But they started by first teaching law to the accountants, and then perfecting it, and then building that, and building on their faculty based, you know, the professors. So one thing we want to do is do it too quickly. Another example I can give is Aga Khan University. Aga Khan started as a small hospital. It was like a cottage hospital, just to serve and help the Ismaili community. That's how it started. But slowly, it began to grow. And it did not become a university immediately. It first perfected its operations as a hospital. Then realized, now we have a hospital, now we have patients, now we can actually use this base to actually teach. So if you grow slowly, you can be able to be able to make it. And I think finally, if I just let me finally, as I say about it's basic things, like I was at the University of Nairobi. I started by teaching 30 students. By the time I left, and it's one of the reasons why I left, we were having 200 students without a microphone, with no teaching, with no, what do they call? I'd have expected to have some tutorial fellows helping me mark. You're expected to make 400 scripts in 2 weeks, because the parallel students have to come to class next week so that they can be able, the university can earn money. And we used to be told, we have a cash crunch.
Right.
The government is no longer giving us resources. We didn't grow. Also, there is scientific information from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics that clearly indicates that for every doctor, how many technicians do you need? For every engineer, how many technicians do you need? For every architect, how many technicians do you have? So, like they said, when we killed our technical colleges, what you're doing is producing the degree holders without a support base. What does it do? Even if we produce people with degrees, it still affects the service delivery and does not impact on the way we operate in the country.
Last week I was having a conversation with the Cabinet Secretary for Labour, Ukur Yatani, and he was talking about the situation that we have in the country, that we have so many graduates around, but the job demand or the labor demand currently is for those artisans, those technical people, who are also becoming so expensive. So the question is, we have a young population, quite a bit, and how do you sensitize them to move their minds from university degrees to technical courses that will bring them a livelihood?
Now, just to add on to our point, that rapid expansion was monetary driven, like you've already said. It was not driven by what the economy needs, that you want to become, you want to enhance your agriculture, so then the courses you come up with, you expand in order to provide courses that can enhance that agriculture. But what you're saying brings me to another point, and this is the point about teachers, students or people going into teaching profession with the grade D and D minus, is it D and D plus, as opposed to the cutoff at C plus.
Right.
What you're saying,
C-plane.
What you're saying is so true. Because, for example, the government for this year, or in the next budget year, is going to spend so much money to bring up the TVET institutions. Okay? At the same time, those TVET institutions are, of course, for students who cannot go, who have not made it to the universities. But at the same time, the government, and until Magoha, it's just been changed, but the government had lowered the intake into the teaching institutions to D, was it D plus? Now, the country or the attitude of Kenyans or the attitude of the young people is still geared towards the blue-collar, the white-collar jobs, as opposed to looking for things that are vocational training or skill training. So when you give a D plus holder an opportunity to become a teacher, and you go and spend so much money on the technical colleges, who's going to go to these technical colleges? Obviously, all these D plus holders will like to be teachers, as opposed to going for vocational training, because our attitude is such that vocational training is looked down upon. Okay, so I'm glad that this has now been changed, and for even the teaching institutions, the D plus holders now will not see their way through. I know this is going to cause a lot of problems, but that is the right way to go. I just need to let you know that before I got here, I taught, and my background is in teaching. Okay. So this is, I'm so passionate about
You're
this.
You're a teacher of?
Oh!
Language.
And I just like to say that, you know, it really gets me angry to think that people think teaching is the easiest thing. You can get a D plus holder, an E whatever holder, that they can just become teachers. Because if you get those people to teach, what sort of students are they going to produce?
Right, because of time. Janet, I want you specifically to comment on this issue of about 3,265 teacher trainees who have been sent month after doing a course, have been sent home after doing a course for 2 months, and this is because of the issue of low entry grades. So 3,265 teacher trainees who are admitted to colleges have had to now go back due to that low entry grade. Just a quick comment on that. Because
of course there's sadness, because you know you're looking at losses at household level, people had paid fees and all that, but I still want to draw us back to the philosophy of our education system. I mean, for example, how would we be comparing ourselves with countries where at PP1 level children are being taught by graduates, and then here in our country, when we benchmark with those countries, then we come and say we want our children to be taught by persons we have already judged and given them the lowest grade. So I think that the philosophy there was wrong, and for so many reasons. You would want the teaching profession to remain a respected profession. So having a cut point of C really is a good idea. But then again, it's just the same issue that we are saying, that we have people sitting at the highest levels of government, but that do not care about particular accountabilities. For example, when you hear pronouncements such as particular courses are going to be scrapped off, and you're looking at a certain household that have sold everything they have to get their children having that grade, notwithstanding that that child was called there by a particular government body called COOPS that sat down and called your child to that particular school. So I'm looking at
So how do we balance the quality of education and making sure that we don't downplay such an incredible career jobs? I mean, being a teacher, like you said, in other places, for you to be considered a teacher, you should have actually an A+, right? Yes. So here in Kenya, how do we then strike a balance between the quality of education that we give our students vis-a-vis making sure that we also make sure that it remains a respectable career?
And as I'm saying, a lot of these things rest with government. Because even as you hear Mheshimiwa Rosa here saying that we are a country that has not glorified anything else that is not a degree. And I look at government, you are the guys going all over the place telling us, enroll your children in technical institutions, let them have these qualifications. But look at your jobs, when you advertise your jobs. The qualification you ask for is a master's degree, and so many. So are you walking the talk? I mean, show us that you need these skills in these offices, so that you can employ on many other youths and even parents to be able to invest and take their children through some of these courses.
And so it would appear that the technical courses are for the informal sector.
Is that
not necessarily? It's not necessarily. Our big four, if we are talking about big four, is manufacturing. What drives manufacturing? It is those courses taught at the technical colleges. If we talk about universal health care, who manages those fancy machines that we are bringing in?
Right.
It's the technicians. So you can have a dialysis machine. If you don't have a technician to maintain it and to man it, the doctor is not going to man it, the doctor is not going to service it.
Yeah, and that is why we are saying the government is even in talks with the Federation of Kenya Employers and so on. So there is a way we can ensure that we get market for these courses, so that we can show people that surely you can go through these courses and still be able, because I am sure a nurse from the Kenya Medical Training College is way much better than a nurse at some of these universities on 4th floor. And
in fact, most of our nurses actually leave after training, and they are able to immediately get landed immigrant status in Canada, in Australia, because those countries value them. Those countries realize that their health care system is run by nurses. We talk about food security. Again, when you talk about soil testing, running food production, who does it? It is that people taught at the technical colleges. So actually big four cannot succeed if we continue training people to study anthropology and,
philosophy.
Yes. All right, let's take a look at the feedback.
So, yes, do you have the feedback that has come through? So I guess Sam Milimu says that the mood of the public might be wrong. People just need to do what is right. These members of parliament are earning more than they deserve. So that is the conversation we're having earlier on that. That someone says that I have taught at one time 1,500 students, teach up to 300 to 400 in a given time. 8 to 10 courses in an academic year. That is Kobilo from MU. MU is which university?
More university.
Mike,
that's a stadium. That's not a classroom.
So he's actually saying that lucky you, Honorable Shole.
All right. So Mike on Twitter says, I'm one of those who bought the ODM lie. Is this what we were meant to believe is the alternative to Jubilee? No difference between ODM and Jubilee MPs. I'm sure they're referring...
How does ODM come in there? I know. Did we talk about ODM at all?
I'm sure they're referring to...
Maybe they're profiling you from the part you come from. But let Magoha address the issue of lecturers frustrating those PhD students by taking too long and not allowing them to. Taking 7 years, and yet they keep their papers for long without marking. So there's also that challenge in the universities that you take so long to clear your PhD, yet these institutions will need PhD lecturers. So there's a lot that needs to be looked into in this review.
Zinzi asked a question about what happens to the 3,200 students who have to go home. I think that should not stop us from taking the reform. And there's something called collateral damage. that is collateral damage.
Well, they have gone to court, then they want to sue.
Okay.
Just according to what the article has said.
Yes,
so we'll see.
But I'm assuming that they're probably being stopped and then will be reintegrated to some other relevant courses
in terms of
and get also their refund
or
of their
into
school
the
fees.
TVETs, which are government, whatever.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't think that drastic action would be taken like that. There should be a transition.
There should be a way of managing that. Honorable Gladys Boshole from Uasin Gishu, Rosa Boyu from Kisumu County, and Janet Oko, formerly the Nairobi County Executive. Asante sana for making time for us and for having that conversation, including those uncomfortable things you have to talk about.
I had fun. I don't think there was anything uncomfortable.
Okay, all right.
I missed politics in this. There was no.
Yes, I know.
Look at you. So we take a short break. On Daybreak. When we return, she will be engaging.
Yes, of course, sitting in on behalf of Willis Waburu today on Engage, we want to take a look at this thing called submission. We want to demystify the concept around submission, the purpose of it, the truth about submission.
Submission of papers?
Submission in relationships, or should I be specific in marriage? Rosa.
Submitting documents.
As a lawyer.
Submitting documents in court, and not that kind of submission.
I'm a very submissive woman.
You're a very submissive woman. All right. I want to ask a question, but because of time, I will hold.
She called me a troublemaker.
Okay.
You need them in your panel.
I should, right?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back to this commercial break.